These are the top 10 4K Blu-rays from Q1 of 2023. Let's get into it. What is up, everybody? I am Mason from the Mockbuster YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about the top 10 4K Blu-rays that have been released so far in 2023. Q1 is at the end of the year. Let's do a business report. Let's report back, a performance report back to the 4K community, because, you know, if you go to a job, if you have a job, you have performance reports, or, you know, they want to know how you're doing. So as a fan of film, as a fan of 4Ks, as a person who has a YouTube channel who likes to talk about these things and who's ingrained in the community, I wanted to talk about my top 10 4K Blu-rays that have been released so far in the year 2023. Now, will we get more better 4Ks upcoming? Will it slow down? Who knows? Let's talk about it. Starting off with number 10, and that is a boutique release from 88 Films. That is Dragons Forever, with a 4K restoration done in 2021 on all three cuts of the film. Dragons Forever looks the best it's ever had, with a new Dolby Vision transfer, or Dolby Vision Master, which is the kicker of this transfer. You say, oh, yeah, I'm on Blu-ray, I'm on 4K. Yeah, but this has Dolby Vision, which is a huge upgrade, you know, as it brings out a lot of detail from the image that may have been lost without it, but not only in darker scenes, but also in well-lit scenes. You know, the Dolby Vision helps with bringing out lifelike skin tones, and it makes you notice the nuance and minute details of things such as makeup and effects, or just normal skin blemishes, you know. The very 80s costume design just pops off the screen, with characters wearing these absolutely cheesy sweaters with like 5 different colors on it. It looks great. I will say, though, that as amazing as this set is, the big chunk and big boy set comes with a really nice artwork that was commissioned, comes with a nice keep case and a bunch of really cool stuff and art cards and stuff like that. I will have to say that there are a few faults with this restoration, one being its grain structure, as it can look quite uneven and heavy in a few spots. Some sequences of the film do fault, you know, from the source material. It's not from the actual restoration, but it is from the actual source material. You can't really do that unless you do DNR, and I hate DNR, so at least they let it sit in the transfer. But again, if you're a grain hater, this may not be a pickup for you. But honestly, these are kind of my minor gripes with it. When it comes to like a transfer, it's still a great transfer from one of my favorite Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung collaborations. It also comes again in a beautiful box set that is chock full of bonus features. What surprised me most about this release is how fantastic the audio was. You know, it surprisingly boasts a fantastic Dolby Atmos soundtrack, as every speaker will be used, and the overall quality in audio is on full display. There are more noticeable low ends to the Atmos track compared to the others, that really gives out this like really theatrical feel. I don't know how to describe it. You know, when you're watching a movie and you just feel like you're in the cinema with the sound and the bass and all that kind of stuff. That's how this transfer feels, this audio transfer. There wasn't really need for me to mess around with the volume, as dialogue was crystal clear, and it didn't feel out of place when mixed with the effects and the music and all these kind of things. Because, you know, these Asian cinemas, a lot of it's ADR, a lot of it is, you know, Foley artists making the noise and stuff like that. There's not very much in-camera recording or on-set recording, so it didn't really mess with that. A lot of it is mixed extremely well. You know, as a Hong Kong cinema fan, Jackie Chan fan, or a Sammo Hung fan, or just a fan of really great action flicks, this release from 88 Films did not disappoint, and is a great release for those who don't mind a bit of grain, that is, obviously. Next was a surprising release that I really enjoyed, and that is Dawn of the Dead on 4K Blu-ray, the Scream Factory release. You know, I was so thankful that this honestly did get a rescan, because I recently bought the Scream Factory Blu-ray. I was like, oh, it's a 2K scan. What the hell are they gonna do? Just upgrade it? You know, I actually did a 4K, you know, rescan with a 4K digital intermediate. You know, as previous releases only did come with the original 2K digital intermediate. Again, this is another grainy film that may turn off some 4K viewers off, but fans of the film will come to expect that grain, that really hyper stylized visual presentation that comes with the territory. So at the end of the day, the Dolby Vision UHD release is the best case scenario when it comes to home video. Dare I say even better than the theater print, as this is again an uncompressed 4K digital intermediate. Heresy? I know. Detail is far superior and cleaner compared to the earlier Blu-ray releases, and even it's a huge substantial upgrade from the 2017 standard release that Scream Factory did release. So if you're like, I already own the Scream Factory, why would I have to invest? Because you're getting a new 4K scan original camera negatives, uncompressed 4K digital intermediate, and it's a lot better than the Scream Factory Blu-ray. Even though I do kind of like the Scream Factory release, the artwork on that one, but for the Blu-ray one, but this 4K one, it looks fantastic. I guess the only weaknesses worth mentioning, again, this is why this is number 8 or number 9, is that in some scenes the CGI images and increased gore effects will still feel a tad primitive, being an early 2000s relatively low budget film. That is one of a mainer gripe with me. And also only the extended cut is on 4K, but that's okay. I'm a fan of the extended cut anyways. I don't mind that the theatrical cut is released not released on 4K. So those who are wondering, yes, the extended cut is on 4K, the theatrical is not. So if you actually do prefer the theatrical cut, that disc is the same presentation from the 2017 collector's edition, which hasn't been cleaned up or upgraded since that release. When it comes to the audio, the 5.1 is decent. It does help elevate elements of horror and help convey its post-apocalyptic setting, but honestly, in terms of an upgrade from the Scream Factory's previous release, it is quite literally the exact same soundtrack from the previous Blu-ray release. So again, this is why it is at number 9. Number 8, we're going to be talking about Magnificent Seven, another factory or SF or Shout Factory release. Going into this transfer, I had really high hopes, as I do own the Magnificent Seven Blu-ray collection from MGM, so I could only imagine what the wonders of a new 4K scan and Dolby Vision could do to this Western classic. And after popping in the player and watching the film all the way through, I would say that there was definitely an upgrade when it comes to the detail. Yeah, it's not like mind-blowing of an improvement over the Blu-ray. Close-up and wide shots are still chock full of detail, which aid in its fantastic cinematography. For those who hate grain, though, this new 4K upgrade does help tighten up the grain, which was a problem on the previous Blu-ray release. The grain on that was like extremely boxy and pixelated, for being only like a 25 gigabyte layer disc. But thankfully this 4K resolves that issue, giving it a more polished look without ever, appearing to be digitally scrubbed. But I do have to preface that for those who hate grain, that this is an immediate skip for you guys, as there are tons of grain in this film, and that's just a result, honestly, of the source material. So if you hate grain, skip it. But if you're a Western fan, if you're a 1960s, 50s, 60s, 70s, that kind of era films, obviously, movies made on film are going to have a grain, but this, very bright, contrasty film, a lot of it set in the deserts of the outside, you're going to expect to have some grain. But honestly, the biggest upgrade when it comes to the transfer is the new Dolby Vision HDR passover, as the Blu-ray honestly looked extremely weak and dull. This Dolby Vision pass reinvigorates the film, making primaries so much more rich and, extracting detail that was lost from that pale and soft, color palette from the Blu-ray disc. Black levels are inky and have no semblance of any detail crush. In fact, there is, more detail here than with the Blu-ray's SDR, which is a good, which is a common complaint when it comes to poorly done 4Ks. Sometimes the Dolby Vision or the HDR way too over contrasted to the point where the black levels are inky and it just crushes all the detail. Thankfully here, it's not the case. In fact, with this, you get inky black levels and you get more detail. So it's a win-win. Even the Shout Factory themselves has fallen victim to the poor black levels and the overblown whites. But thankfully, this recent release, they got their shite together and released a pretty good 4K release. And the best part about it is that there was no spots, no scratches, or speckling within the film transfer, making this an actual 4K restoration. Good job, guys. You went from being the worst 4K Blu-ray, one of the worst 4Ks, releasing the worst 4Ks of last year, to making a really good restoration. Thank you, guys. Also, I mainly wanted to talk about the visuals for this 4K, as honestly the audio just ports over the same 5.1 DTS HD master audio. It serves the film well, but it doesn't really sound very impressive. I'd recommend the stereo soundtrack, as it has more balance within the mix and contains the dynamics without, sounding too soft. Alright, next up on the list is The Fablemans. So far, every Spielberg film I've seen on 4K has been nothing more than extremely impressive, and The Fablemans continues that great track record as the 4K Blu-ray from Universal looks fantastic, as this is sourced from a 4K digital intermediate. In fact, the source is so good that even the standard Blu-ray, when I popped in the standard Blu-ray, it looks fantastic. But, you know, where it gets the edge up is the glorious Dolby Vision always, you know, that's one of my biggest, you know, it can either be its downfall or it's, you know, if its biggest upgrade, Dolby Vision or HDR, and thankfully it does it really well here. Besides the obviously increase in clarity from its inky black levels that don't crush detail and the uniform whites that don't, you know, bloom, the color palette looks fantastic with Dolby Vision, and an appreciable increase in shadow detail. Skin tones look great. Some things that may be overlooked just pop, you know, things like Michelle Williams' characters, you know, lipstick, the very nice and vibrant red. You know, I love that kind of 35mm look that they're trying to add to the picture, which makes this kind of 2022 film feel straight out of the 1950s. Not to mention the clothing detail is top notch. And then when it comes to the audio, the Dolby 7.1 True HD, I thought at first of all was a bit overboard, being that this is just honestly like a drama film and may not use every channel, but you know, I stand corrected. You know, surround sound is there, and just the sound design itself gets an appreciated boost and almost feels kind of like an ASMR, you know, with a subtle nuances and really immersive little details that really, you know, immerse you into the time period and the film itself. You know, there's also these little sequences of people watching movies. Those scenes have things like action scenes and those kind of things that really heighten up subwoofer testing stuff. So The Fablemans, absolutely great. If you love the movie, if you're a really big fan of the movie, I'd say pick it up on 4K. It's definitely a great pickup. Next up on the list is a Severin release, and that is Phenomena. Now, my first Argento film that I've seen on 4K was quite the experience. Now, while I do admit that this transfer is from a previous box set release, I felt like now is the best time to buy it. It's more accessible than ever to pick up this film without having to dish up over $70 for a box set. This was an extremely immersive transfer. It looks fantastic, extremely sharp, and you know, when some people coin the term, oh man, it looks like it was filmed yesterday, this wholeheartedly feels like it was filmed yesterday. It looks amazing. The film grain remains honestly intact and is consistently without no changes, things being boxy or things having, you know, those obvious compression artifacts. That's not really here in this transfer at all. The Dolby Vision is also fantastic, as the natural skin tones, inky black levels create a beautiful image. And obviously, you know, Argento as an Italian giallo, the impressive gore and makeup effects are on full display. And obviously, you know, being part Italian and an English production, everything is overdubbed, but honestly, it sounds quite natural, as it never felt ridiculous like some Fulci films does. If you've seen some Fulci films on 4K, or just if you've seen one of his movies in general, the mouth's going all over the things, but the guy's saying hello. So but here it didn't really, you know, take me out of that film. I love the soundtrack, which also utilizes the low ends too. The Foley department definitely had a fun time during this production with the amounts of stabbing and gushing and all squishy, gory goodness sounds, which is very prevalent on this 5.1, but I do have to acknowledge that the majority of this film, again, is quite front heavy, but there are subtleties in this audio soundtrack that do pop up in the surround. So it's not overall like amazing, but you definitely can hear it does, you know, serve the film well, but mostly, again, the visuals fantastic. Next up is quite a controversial release because it came out on a Blu-ray case, and that is Training Day on 4K. I can't believe they haven't done anything with the transfer since it was first released on Blu-ray and HD DVD. Are you kidding me? It was in dire need of a freshen up, and holy hell did they ever freshen up the transfer. My only gripe with this release is that it comes with Dolby Vision on iTunes, but it only comes in standard HDR10 for the physical. Like, why? I don't know. But anywho, this 4K still shines. I use the term immersive in many of my reviews. I probably said it multiple times already, as it is mainly a gauge for me when talking about 4Ks, because at the end of the day, I do take into consideration the transfer's aid in helping with the movie watching experience. If I wanted to just watch a demo-worthy disc with no further substance, I'd watch one of those documentaries. But you know, when the two collide in a beautiful matrimony and harmony, Both great image quality and fantastic storylining being aided together by said transfer. It really puts a smile on my anal retentive face. As details just help this film come to life. Facial details, particulars in the dingy city streets and neighborhoods. The transfer is a huge upgrade from the old Blu-ray and DVD releases. Black levels are fantastic, whites are brilliant and crisp without any blooming. The color palette has a more cool tone and changes the color timing from the Blu-ray to be less matrixy feeling with the green hues that were added for some reason, I don't know. Paired with a fantastic Dolby Vision transfer, which is a huge improvement from the previous Blu releases. Training Day is on 4K is a must-own for fans of the film. So next, another film that is controversial that that may not be a must-own for everyone, because this is a bit of a dad movie, a bit of a grandpa movie, some would say, and that is The Italian Job, the Kino Lorber 4K release of The Italian Job. I mean, what can I say? New 4K scan of the original camera negatives with a Dolby Vision HDR transfer. This was already a winner before I even popped it in the tray. Paramount have been a hit or miss with their transfers, but I know, Kino Lorber's quality control is top notch for the most part. Let's not talk about Hard Target. That was something else. That was a little hiccup, but for the most part, they've had a really good track record when it comes to their transfers and their restorations. Even though they don't do it themselves, for the most part, they do screen them, they view them, and they for the most part, there will be the best looking of the film. If you are a motorhead, the vintage cars just shine with this new transfer. The Dolby Vision really steals the show as it exceeds in giving breathtaking color palettes from the 1960s, from the vibrant satin shirts to the makeup to the unique paint schemes on cars like that red Lambo. Ooh, I really don't care for cars that much, but when I saw that beauty purring and shining, oh, that looked really cool. The blue, white, and red Mini Cooper looks fantastic, but even everything from the subtle primaries of skin tones and skies look absolutely beautiful. The film may not be, again, for everyone. It's quite dull at certain points. Some may even call it boring. Not me, though, because I'm a real film lover. But when it kicks up, it really shines. I love me some explosions, and they look beautiful here. The almost kind of silky, velvety flow of the flames with the nuances of oranges and reds and yellows are sure to turn anyone into pyromaniacs. Not to mention how fantastic of an actual restoration this 4K is, with no signs of dirt or scratches or nicks within the film print. Now, this release comes with both DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 and a DTS HD Master Audio 2.0 mono track. All remastered with no snaps or hisses or whispering and all that kind of stuff. An extremely detailed image, mashed with a detailed soundtrack. Engines roaring, explosions will test your subwoofers. And while I tend to usually prefer the mono tracks for older films, the 5.1 actually really does help bring this film to life and help immerse you in these driving sequences, which makes you feel very three-dimensional. You hear the engine, you hear the tires skidding across the road. It sounds great. It's a hard recommendation for those who aren't a fan of this film, who don't really care for this film. Again, it's a slower film, but for those who do enjoy this 60s romp, it is another must-own. Alright, we're getting up there. Next is All Quiet on the Western Front 4K Blu-ray. Now, this was another disc that was really intriguing, as the Netflix image quality for me looked pretty good. So having an uncompressed 4K 100GB dual layer disc, triple layer disc, whatever you want to call it, made my mind race with possibilities. The Academy Award winning visuals look absolutely amazing on 4K UHD Blu-ray and is a huge upgrade from the Netflix stream. The detail is extremely sharp and vibrant, giving excellent close-ups, the textures of weapons and all those kind of things, as well as the individual hairs, beard stubble, clothing textures are all gorgeous. When people have mud and schmutz and grime all over them, you can see the individual cracks and within the dried mud and that kind of stuff. It looks fantastic. This is an extremely visceral anti-war film, and it's on full display as scenes of gore and viscera from the fantastic practical makeup effects effects give it so much detail, really gripping you in its hellish chaos. Some gripes when it comes to modern films of this caliber can be the CG elements can usually hinder the image quality, as those are usually kind of downgraded when it comes to rendering to 2K. But thankfully with this 4K Blu-ray, it doesn't seem to be that case. The CG sequences still retain that crispy 4K quality, throughout, really adding to that cinematic experience. Its honestly depressing color palette may seem like a hindrance to the Dolby Vision, but it still succeeds in its great black levels that don't crush detail, and again, the whites that don't bloom, and the way the dichotomy of the blood looks really rich, that really help the contrast from the color palette, really making it more of an impact, being like, holy shit, everything's a gray and a blue, and then you just see this pure vibrant red, and it kind of kickstarts something in your brain. Skin tones, same with the skin tones. When you think of the Matrix when it comes to the green tones, but replace that with blue tones, and that's what you have with the All Quiet on the Western Front 4K transfer. And then when it comes to the audio, it's downright reference quality on this disc with a superb Dolby Atmos track. There are numerous battle scenes that just completely immerse you into the madness. Bullets whizzing past your heads, motors, shells, explosions. The sound when they start using the flamethrowers, and you hear the and it's like holy shit, because this was the first use of, I believe, flamethrowers, and you just hear the audio cues, and you see the red kind of leaving a mark on their face, and holy shit, never been seen before, and it really helps you understand that. The explosions again are some of the most subwoofer testing sequences I've ever had the auditory pleasure of listening to. Another case of fantastic sound design that is fully aided with an amazing Dolby Atmos treatment. I'd be here all day if I had to explain every amazing thing about the audio and the visuals. So let's move on to the number 2 rank. Number 2 is a huge sleeper hit, and that is Dragonslayer. I was not expecting much out of it. I think on this list, it's the cheapest 4K, currently retailing for less than $20 brand new. Sourced from a brand new restoration approved by the director, Matthew Robbins. This 4K is a practical effects lover's dream. Real flames and actual sets that look beautiful in this restoration. Not to mention that the restoration itself is one of the best I've ever seen, retaining its film grain but being much more natural, akin to like a painter's brushstroke, as I always say. Also aided by the fact that there are no marks or tears or speckles or those kind of things in the film, made it look even better. As a lot of this film is in darker lighting situations, I never felt as if I was losing detail from it. Shadow detail is fantastic, and the Dolby Vision is great, from the stunning shots of flames to the subtleties of skin tones and those kind of things. Armor looks fantastic, the reflection and the chainmail and those kind of stuff. The details within the sets and within the kind of set design really immerses you into those ye old medieval kind of styles. It looks fantastic. For a film I had no clue about, it really shines and presents itself better than most $100+ million films. The great use of surrounds and subwoofer testing moments make Dragonslayer a great cop on 4K Blu-ray. I highly recommend it. Next is my number 1 4K Blu-ray, my favorite 4K Blu-ray release so far of 2023. Now, this may not be another film that may not be an easy film to get into, being over 3 hours long, but I personally was a fan of the time period and the fantastic score with the stacked cast. But when it comes to the 4K disc alone, honestly, it already has a placeholder for my top 10 of the year already. Babylon on 4K Blu-ray looks absolutely fantastic. The 4K Dolby Vision transfer, the picture quality with a 4K Dolby Vision transfer, the picture quality is impeccable, providing a level of detail that truly immerses the viewer in the world of the film. The colors are vibrant, the contrast is sharp, and the black levels are deep, making this a cinematic experience that is second to none. Thankfully, for this release, Paramount went with a 100GB dual layer disc on the 4K, giving it a solid bitrate with no compression, particles, and artifacts, and those kind of things, or any types of modulation or whatsoever. The 4K Blu-ray release of Babylon includes a number of special features that provide an in-depth look at the making of the film, from behind-the-scenes documentaries to commentary tracks. Fans of the film will find plenty to enjoy and a lot to sink their teeth into. The Dolby Atmos track is freaking stellar. there, with every channel being used, making it a true cinematic experience in your home. For those equipped with, Dolby Atmos or 7.1, this will be quite the treat for audiophiles. Overall, Babylon on 4K Blu-ray is an essential addition to any home theater collection. The stunning picture quality and immersive audio make it a visual feast, while the gripping story and talented cast make it a must-watch for fans of drama and period pieces alike. This 4K release is absolutely stunning, and I highly recommend it. So, those were the top 10 4K Blu-rays of Q1 of 2023. Let me know down below what are some of your favorite 4K releases that have been released so far. Let me know down below. Again, this has been Mason from the Mockbuster YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Again, I love nerding out over 4K. This has been going on for half an hour, almost half an hour when it comes to the video, so I just love nerding out. So let me know down below if you want me to continue this series every quarter of the year, jotting down my top 10, or should I wait for the end of the year to give you a juicy top 10 to make everything final. So that was today's video. Guys, again, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe because it is free. It means a whole lot to me. It pushes the channel and everything. Again, thank you so much for 1,500 subscribers. I really do appreciate it. And until I see you guys next time, please have yourself a good day, night, evening, afternoon, morning, whenever you're watching this. Please stay safe. God bless. Peace, cheers, long and physical medium, and have a good one, guys. Peace out.